In a time marked by the rise of materialism and the spread of secularism, and during a historical period when Turkey was being steered away from its rich Islamic heritage, a spiritual and intellectual movement emerged aiming to restore the lost balance between faith and reason, and between religion and the modern age. This is the Nurcu movement, which was not merely a Sufi path or a school of jurisprudence, but a comprehensive project to shape a new religious consciousness capable of facing the challenges of spiritual decline and cultural westernization. Founded by Sheikh Muhammad Said Nursi in the heart of Anatolia, the movement did not remain confined to a single geography. It extended its reach to minds and hearts across the Islamic world. Al-Nursi's approach blended the light of divine revelation with the illumination of reason, presenting the Quran in a new, accessible way, and using knowledge as a tool to strengthen faith rather than contradict it. But one question arises: was this movement merely a reaction to Ataturk's Kemalist project in Turkey, or was it a reformist prophecy ahead of its time? In this video, we will explore the Nurcu movement in depth, examining its origins, beliefs, and the details of its intellectual and spiritual project. Stay with us until the end, and don't forget to support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel to receive all our latest content. The Nurcu movement is a spiritual Islamic movement that emerged in the early 20th century. Founded by Sheikh Muhammad Said Nursi, born in 1877 in the village of Nurs in eastern Anatolia to Kurdish parents. From an early age, Al-Nursi displayed remarkable intellectual and scholarly talent, mastering both religious sciences and rational thought. This combination made him a pivotal figure in modern Turkey. Despite growing up in poverty, he demonstrated extraordinary memory and academic skill, becoming a living encyclopedia that blended Islamic jurisprudence, logic, and philosophy. For his innovative and deep thinking, he earned the title Bediüzzaman, Wonder of the Age. The Nurcu movement arose during a period when Turkish society was experiencing major secularization under Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, who sought to suppress Islamic identity. In response, Al-Nursi launched an intellectual and spiritual project aimed at reviving faith among Turkish Muslims. His approach combined traditional Islamic teachings with rational thought, seeking to reinterpret Islam in a way that preserved its core principles while addressing the challenges of the modern age. The movement emerged in the aftermath of the Ottoman Caliphate's collapse, serving as a profound internal reaction to the secularizing and westernizing reforms that aim to remove religion from public life. Al-Nursi emphasized that spiritual and moral purification was the essential way to resist this trend. He insisted that Islam should not be reduced to empty rituals, but should serve as a comprehensive system of life, harmonizing timeless religious principles with the realities of contemporary society. Through this approach, the Nurcu movement sought to cultivate a new religious consciousness, one capable of navigating the pressures of modernization while maintaining a strong connection to Islamic faith. It was not simply a Sufi path or a school of jurisprudence, but a holistic intellectual and spiritual project designed to empower individuals and communities to integrate faith, reason, and daily life. The Nurcu movement is defined by its unique blend of spirituality and rational thought. Sheikh Muhammad Said Nursi encouraged his followers to engage in deep spiritual reflection, while also applying reason to the understanding of the Quran and Sunnah. He viewed the Quran not simply as a sacred religious text, but as a comprehensive guide for life. Its teachings, he argued, should be interpreted in a rational and thoughtful manner, in harmony with contemporary developments, while preserving the unchanging principles of Islam. A core principle of the movement is the emphasis on knowledge and education. Al-Nursi believed that science strengthens faith, and that both natural and technological sciences should serve Islam rather than contradict it. According to his teaching, intellect and faith must work together to promote a proper understanding of Islam. allowing believers to navigate modern challenges without compromising religious values. This approach positioned the movement as both spiritual and intellectually engaging, aiming to create a well-rounded Islamic consciousness. Daily practices in the Nurcu movement revolved around remembrance, dhikr, and worship. Al-Nursi stressed the importance of consistency in spiritual devotion as a means to draw closer to God. The movement did not rely on complex rituals or extreme asceticism. Instead, it fostered a spiritual environment that integrated seamlessly with daily life. Continuous remembrance, prayer, and worship were intended to strengthen the personal connection with God and maintain a steady focus on spiritual development. At the communal level, the Nurcu movement promoted gradual moral and spiritual reform. It encouraged building a resilient faith that could withstand the intellectual and spiritual challenges of the modern world. By combining rational inquiry, knowledge, and devotion, the movement offered a practical framework for living an Islamic life that is both spiritually meaningful and intellectually informed. Through its integration of reason, faith, and daily practice, the Nurcu movement sought to cultivate a religious consciousness capable of balancing tradition with modernity, equipping individuals and communities to preserve their spiritual integrity while engaging thoughtfully with the contemporary world. Although the Nurcu movement was founded on rational and spiritual principles aimed at cultivating conscious faith, several of its practices have sparked extensive debate, particularly regarding internal rituals, social behaviors, and the veneration of its founders' writings. These controversies highlight the tension between the movement's intellectual foundations and the ways in which followers engage with its teachings and practices. One of the most debated aspects concerns Sheikh Muhammad Said al-Nursi's Risale-i Nur, Epistles of Light. Originally written to explain religious and moral concepts in a rational and accessible language, these texts have, over time, been elevated by some followers to a quasi-sacred status. They are read and recited in study circles as if they were divine revelation itself. Critics argue that this level of veneration risks exaggeration, potentially placing the texts on a level comparable to the Quran in terms of reverence. Even within the broader Islamic scholarly community, some have criticized this practice, insisting that holiness should remain reserved exclusively for divine revelation. This issue underscores the delicate balance between intellectual engagement and emotional devotion within the movement. Another controversial area involves rituals resembling traditional Sufi practices. Collective dhikr, remembrance sessions, are central to the movement, during which followers chant together, sometimes accompanied by vocal and physical movements. While these sessions are intended to deepen spiritual focus and bring participants closer to God, their form and intensity closely mirror Sufi rituals. This creates a tension with the rationalist and educational framework established by al-Nursi. The combination of heightened spirituality with intellectual rigor has led some observers to question the coherence between the movement's ideology and its practical manifestations. Social behavior and lifestyle choices have also generated discussion. Some followers prefer isolation, living in closed communities and limiting interaction with broader society and political life. This has occasionally diminished the movement's visibility and influence in public affairs. Additionally, certain adherents dedicate long periods to intensive study and reflection on the Risale-i Nur, often withdrawing from social engagement entirely. While this fosters personal spiritual development, critics argue it may serve as a form of escapism from pressing societal issues such as poverty, ignorance, and injustice, thereby limiting the movement's practical social impact. Excessive veneration of Sheikh al-Nursi himself has also provoked controversy. Despite his rejection of personal idolization, some followers attribute extraordinary powers to him, such as knowledge of the unseen or the ability to heal. These beliefs contradict his rationalist and educational approach and introduce supernatural elements that diverge from his original teachings, sparking both internal and external disputes over their validity. Finally, the movement's reliance on written epistles for propagation, often distributed secretly due to political restrictions, concentrated influence among educated and literate followers. Repetitive study of these texts without discussion of contemporary social or political matters has contributed to intellectual rigidity, reducing the movement's adaptability and broader societal engagement. In conclusion, while the Nurcu movement sought to harmonize faith, reason, and spirituality, certain internal rituals, elevated veneration of texts and individuals, and tendencies toward social withdrawal have provoked debate regarding the consistency of its practices with its founding principles and its practical influence on society at large. The influence of the Nurcu movement has extended far beyond Turkey, reaching many countries in the Islamic world and beyond. Within Turkey, the movement established a presence in numerous cities and regions, becoming an important part of the spiritual and intellectual landscape. Although the number of followers was relatively small compared to some traditional Sufi orders, the movement's influence extended well beyond its size, promoting a balanced and moderate approach that combines faith with reason. Beyond Turkey, the Nurcu movement expanded into other Islamic countries such as Pakistan and India. In these countries, followers began organizing study circles and distributing the Risale-i Nur as a means of spreading al-Nursi's ideas. Similarly, the Nurcu community in Germany was among the first groups to establish schools and educational centers dedicated to teaching the principles of the movement, reflecting its global reach and influence. A particularly notable aspect of the Nurcu movement is its emphasis on women's participation. Women and girls have played a key role in disseminating the writings, copying the texts, and contributing to the spiritual formation of the Nurcu community. This active involvement demonstrates the vitality of the movement and its commitment to reaching all segments of society. Women helped bridge the transmission of al-Nursi's thought from elite circles to ordinary individuals within Turkish and broader Islamic communities. Through these efforts, the Nurcu movement has reinforced spiritual concepts that link faith with reason, emphasizing that religious belief and intellectual understanding can coexist harmoniously. By combining education, spirituality, and active engagement, the movement has established itself as an important reformist initiative in the contemporary Islamic world, promoting personal piety, social awareness, and intellectual reflection simultaneously. Its influence shows that even a relatively small movement can have a lasting impact on both local and global communities by fostering a moderate, thoughtful approach to faith that resonates across generations. Although the Nurcu movement left a significant impact on Turkish society and the Islamic world, it was not free from criticisms from certain intellectual and religious circles. One of the main criticisms focused on the movement's insufficient emphasis on establishing pure monotheism, a principle that Salafi currents strongly uphold. While Salafis regard Tawhid, the oneness of God, as the cornerstone of Islamic belief and insist on its centrality, the Nurcu movement primarily adhered to the Maturidi Creed, which had been widely practiced within the Ottoman state. This orientation placed the movement somewhat distant from the deep theological reassessments undertaken by other Islamic schools, such as the Salafi school, which emphasized rigorous doctrinal refinement and deeper engagement with the principles of monotheism. Critics argue that the Nurcu movement's reliance on the Maturidi Creed could hinder a strong focus on pure monotheism and, in some cases, prevent comprehensive doctrinal reforms necessary to address contemporary challenges. Some commentators expressed concern that this emphasis on Maturidism might weaken critical awareness among the movement's followers in analyzing theological concepts that require reconsideration in light of modern societal and intellectual developments. This, they contend, could limit the movement's capacity to provide innovative perspectives in responding to complex religious and ideological issues. Another criticism directed at the Nurcu movement pertains to its lack of a robust political organization capable of confronting major challenges facing the modern Turkish state, including what some critics describe as Jewish and Zionist infiltration within state institutions. Despite the Nurcus' occasional attempts to engage politically, observers note that their involvement remained limited. Consequently, they failed to establish an effective political or social front capable of addressing these challenges with substantial influence or practical results. Furthermore, the movement's general withdrawal from politics and avoidance of active participation in public affairs contributed to the dispersion of its followers. Over time, some adherents gravitated toward secular parties, leading to a fragmentation of the Nurcu movement into multiple divergent currents. This fragmentation undermined internal unity, making it difficult to consolidate the group under a single doctrinal or methodological framework. The divergence of opinions and political positions became a major factor in the movement's division into various branches, each taking distinct stances based on its interpretation. This multiplicity of approaches contributed to a complex intellectual and political landscape within the movement, challenging its cohesion and long-term strategic influence. After the death of Sheikh Said Nursi, the Nurcu movement faced one of its greatest challenges: internal divisions among its followers. Sheikh Nursi had been a central spiritual and intellectual figure, and his passing left a leadership vacuum that led to the emergence of several ideological and political currents. Followers gradually split into three main groups. The first aligned with the Salvation Party, which adhered to traditional Islamic positions. The second chose to remain politically neutral. And the third opposed the Salvation Party and allied with the Justice Party, led by Suleiman Demirel, which leaned toward liberal policies. These divisions had a significant impact on the unity of the movement. It became increasingly difficult to coordinate members, agree on common political or intellectual positions, or maintain a cohesive organizational structure. As a result, the Nurcu movement's influence in Turkey's social and political spheres was weakened. The split reflected differences in political and ideological orientations, leading to fragmentation into multiple branches, each advocating different approaches to key issues. The movement's foundational texts, the Nurcu Risale, also experienced interpretive divisions over time. Some followers maintained strict adherence to Sheikh Nursi's original ideas, while others developed new interpretations based on these writings. This led to intellectual divergence within the movement and further complicated efforts to maintain a unified vision. Coupled with growing political disagreements, these interpretive differences made it increasingly difficult to preserve the organizational structure that Sheikh Nursi had envisioned. Overall, the combination of ideological, intellectual, and political divergences created major challenges for the Nurcu movement. Fragmentation weakened cohesion, reduced the ability to act collectively, and limited the movement's influence on broader societal and political developments in Turkey. The internal divisions highlighted the difficulty of sustaining unity and continuity after the loss of a central spiritual and intellectual leader. They also shaped the subsequent evolution of the movement, influencing both its structure and the perspectives of its followers in the decades following Sheikh Nursi's death. In conclusion, the Nurcu Risale continues to serve as the intellectual and spiritual foundation of the movement. However, over time, these writings have become subject to varied interpretations and internal disputes, which have weakened the unity of the community and complicated its presence both within Turkey and internationally. The movement now faces the need for careful reassessment to restore its cohesion and influence. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Don't miss the chance to stay updated with all our latest content. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to receive every new update.